Hello there, I'm Barb Owen of HowToGetCreative.com, and I'm here to answer the question that I've been asked recently, and that is, what is a pastel? So I'm going to show you some of the different versions of pastels. This is one of the most common versions of pastels that you're going to see. This is called a chalk pastel, and a chalk pastel is a very inexpensive type of pastel. It is gypsum or limestone that's ground up and usually has dye added to it. They're very inexpensive. You find them for just a few dollars for a great big set of colors, and these are called chalk pastels. And I'm going to show you something fun to do with those in just a second. Another way that you find pastels are in pencil form. And that's what I have here. So these come in a wide variety of colors. This happens to be the General's brand of chalk pastels in pencil form. Or they're called General's Pastel Chalk, as opposed to chalk pastel. And these, you just draw with them like you would with any pencil. So you can draw. And it's best if you draw on paper that's intended for chalk or pastels. It's just a much better choice than regular paper. You need something that has some tooth. This is actually just a watercolor paper, so it's not the ideal paper, but it gives you the idea. So I've drawn on here. These are done with the pastel pencils. And then this is just a blending stump, and you can blend your pastels into your paper, and you can blend them as much as you want, and you can add more layers and so forth. They don't tend to be quite as dusty, I find, when I'm working with the pastel chalk pastel pencils, but you can see how they'll blend nicely into the paper, just like so. If I'm going to change colors, I need to either sand this off or change to a different blending stump. If I don't want to contaminate the colors, I'm just going to wipe it off here on a paper towel just to get the bulk of the pigment off. But it's really best if you change your blending stump with at least change them between the warm and the cool colors, which I've not done. But this is just for an experiment, just to kind of show you give you the idea. So, but you can see how they blend really quite nicely using the blending stump. Now you're going to need to do something to seal these because they will slough off. It's not permanent on the surface, so you're going to have to do something to seal those. So we'll talk about that in a second too. Just so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay. So you can see right in here, this has all been blended with the blending stump. This one has not. It still looks very scratchy. This one, the flower petals and the flower center have been blended, but not the leaves and the stem. So it's kind of a fun, really kind of a fun way to work with a chalk pastel. Now, there's also another kind of pastel that is pretty popular today, and that is the pan pastel. So I'm going to show you the pan pastels, what they look like. I just have a few colors. I don't have very many at all. And these are in a very creamy base. These are the pigments, the mineral pigments, and they're in a base. They're very low dust. They're very creamy. They are professional artist quality, and they're just amazing to work with. So you can, I'm just going to pick up some with my hand, with my finger, to blend on this paper, just so you can see. I mean, I have very, very little pigment on my fingers, and how much color you can get from the pan pastels. I mean, they are really wonderful. One of my favorite things about these is that there's very, very little dust with them. And there's lots of different ways that you can work with them. You can use different kinds of tools. They have tools called soft tools. I'm going to get one out here if I can get my little baggie open. This is a soft tool. They come in different sizes and shapes and so forth. You can also blend them using a Q-tip, for example. You can paint with a Q-tip with them, or you can dedicate different parts of the same tool. If you don't have very many tools, you can dedicate parts of the same tool to different colors. But you can see how beautifully, I mean, that just, it blends so nicely. And there's virtually no dust here. There's a little bit, but not very much. And look, that tiny, tiny little bit of pigment goes and goes and goes and goes. But they really, I mean, you can lay down a background with a pan pastel over a sheet of paper in nothing flat. They do have to be sealed. Any chalk, any pastel, whether it's pan pastel or the kids' quality pastels or the artist grade pastels, are going to have to be sealed. And as I said, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so those are pan pastels. Very low dust, professional quality, beautiful, and the price reflects the quality. And then you have probably the creme de la creme, and that is handmade pastels. So these are actually pastels that a friend of mine gave to me that someone had made, and these are actually pure pigments with a binder, not a lot of binder, and as a result they are highly, highly pigmented, and they are super duper dusty. Actually, that's the first time I have ever even taken them out of the box, because they're so beautiful that I just don't even want to use them. I mean, they are stunning. But they are super dusty, and my fingers are dirty, so I'm not getting clean color on that, but I just wanted you to see. I mean, I barely put anything on that page, and yeah, there's a lot of dust right there. So if dust is a problem for you, pastels may not be your thing. But I love having this little box of pastels because I like to look at them. Now I want to show you something that's really fun to do. So let me pick a new page here. Okay. So this is, like I said, just a little watercolor journal, and it is Strathmore. So this paper is not meant for pastels, but it's a watercolor, Strathmore watercolor visual journal. This is a fun thing to do that I really enjoy, and that is I just have a little stencil here. I'm going to go back to these cheap, I probably should say inexpensive instead of cheap, these inexpensive chalk pastels, and I have some water here, and I'm going to use a sponge. This is a makeup sponge, and I'm going to get the makeup sponge wet, and so it's just damp. And then I'm going to come over here to my pastels, which I'm leaving in the container, and I'm going to pick up some pastel. And then I'm just going to apply it to the paper. Now I'm holding my stencil in place, and then I'm going to just rinse out my sponge a little bit. So I'm just squeezing it in the water a little bit. This is a great time to have different sponges available for your different colors, but I'm just using the same one and just rinsing it out. But you can use your pastels and keep the dust down to a bare minimum by doing this. Now, you still have to seal them in order to keep them on the page, otherwise they're going to rub off. Okay, so let's switch to another color. Again, I'm just rinsing the sponge out in my water. And you can be really picky about which color you pick up. I'm just sort of picking some up. Kind of whatever I pick up, I pick up. You know, I'm not being that particular about it. Because basically I just want to show you how to do this in case it's something that you might want to do. Now, if you've got things that kind of overlap in places you don't want, I just flip the sponge around where I'm not picking up any pigment, so I can just flip it around in my hand, and I can do that way. And then you can lift off your stencil, and you have your chalks used damp, in a damp manner, just a sponge, makeup sponge, and some water. And you're picking up the chalks. You can work with the chalk this way, and you can control that dust. I have no dust on here whatsoever, and I've done entire journal pages this way. I think it's a really fun way to work with the chalk pastels, with those inexpensive chalk pastels. Now, to keep this stuff on the page, you have to seal it because this will slough off. It's just the nature of the material. So there are a couple of things that you can do to fix it. One is this product called SpectraFix. This is a fixative. It's all natural, odor-free. It's an original milk casein formula. It's for pastel, pencil, charcoal, watercolor, and pencil crayon. And this is safe to actually use in your house. And you are better off using several light coats of this rather than one heavy coat. But this, I've had good success with this. I like it because you can use it in the house and it doesn't have a lot of odor. Another one, there are several of workable fixatives on the market. This is one that I have called Krylon Workable Fixative. In this, you can spray between layers, and it will allow you to continue working and adding more color. And then there's a final fixative that you can spray over the top of it that keeps everything in place permanently. But this protects pencil, pastel, chalk drawings, prevents smudging and wrinkling, allows easy rework, it's acid-free and archival and safe. This one stinks, okay? It really stinks, the Krylon product, and you have to do it outside. And it will stay stinky on your page or whatever you're working on. Your surface will stay stinky for a little while, but it eventually dissipates and goes away, and then it's then you don't notice the odor anymore. So it just kind of depends on your preference as to which thing you like to do and which you like to use. So that gives you a little overview of what is a pastel. There's a wide range of prices, a wide variety, and hopefully that gives you some ideas. So feel free to come over and check us out at HowToGetCreative.com. We have all kinds of video classes over there, and we'd love to have you join us. So remember to get creative today, because you know it's easy, and I'll see you next time. I'm Barb Owen. See you next time.